Hello again. It is I, Frieza700. We are back with some Necron lore. This is a favor to Michael Barney because he guessed the right answer to my question on the Night Lords video, which is who is my favorite captain of the Night Lords, which would be Jago Sevitarian. So, here we go. What are the Night Lords?
After the...
I'm just kidding, guys. We're going on more lore with the Necrons. So, what are the Necrons? We already went over their origins, so now we know how they came to be. But now, what are they? This is a much trickier question. So, when Necrons were first created by Games Workshop, at first they didn't really know what the fuck to do with them. In fact, in the older codexes, they didn't even have their own lore. They were just known as chaos machines that will strip life from everything. And it's like, okay, so they're chaos. Alright. But then, when we started to get close to 5th edition, they gave them their own faction. They were OP as fuck. They destroyed tanks. They stun-lock vehicles. They're assholes. And it's like, oh, okay, so they're actually their own faction. Cool. And something that I still hate, because GW still hasn't given us a definitive answer on this, is where the fuck was their fucking empire? Because they're old. They're 60 million years old, and they supposedly had an empire that was only on the rim of the galaxy. That's the current lore, is that it was only on the rim. Nothing inside close to the galactic core was ever touched by the Necrons. So, why then were there a bunch of Necrons on Mars? It doesn't make any sense. So this is why what the Necrons are is a very tricky question to give, because the lore on them is kind of shoddy at best. But we do know enough about them to actually say what it is they're up to, what it is that they believe, what are they gonna do. And that's on that we're gonna delve into quite heavily. So their weapons. As you can tell, their weapons shoot like a green lightning out of their guns. Now, what is that exactly? Well, those are Gauss rifles. I know, you're not thinking like the Gauss is in like Fallout type Gauss weapons. No. These weapons essentially strip you by the molecule. So technically this would be one of the deadliest weapons, again, but reality versus fantasy, that kind of ordeal. But essentially what it does is it attacks you on a molecular level and strips you of any organic molecule that is in your body, leaving you nothing more than dust. This is a very deadly weapon, but it's really effective against vehicles somehow. Some fucking how. Now, the Necrons are a very slow race, so they pack a lot of firepower, and arguably they're the strongest race. They're ridiculously strong because they don't die. They just simply get knocked out, regenerate their armor, and then come back to life as a machine and resume killing. And they have the highest technology we've ever seen, being able to make giant fucking pylons that could strip a world of life. Now, you may wonder why it is they hate life so much. Well, it's not because that they venerate the dead. It's actually different. The reason why they kill everything is because of their war with the Old Ones during the War of the Heavens, where what they did was they realized that in order to get rid of the psychic powers that the Old Ones had, they needed to strip life on a world. Because the warp only has energy as long as there's organic beings to feed it energy. But the warp won't exist if there's nothing alive. So when you go to a tomb world, your warp psychers are going to be very weak on those worlds because there's not anything there that's really the warp for them to cast except for their own bodies. Which again makes it where chaos doesn't work well with Necrons. In fact, Necrons are anti-chaos, if anything. Their plan works. They are definitely capable of destroying the Eye of Terror if they ever got inside it and decided to fuck shit up. They are immune to psychology because of the fact that they're all robots. Now this is a lore thing that even right now, it's still kind of not really understood at all if the Necrons are machines or if they have personalities. So when the Necrons went into their stasis tombs to hibernate for 60 million years, the Silent King, who was the last king, he had this button that basically tied all the Necrons to his will. So they had no personalities, they were all under his control. Well, he smashed that button. He said, no. This is an injustice. I am giving my people their souls back. Blows up the button, and then for 60 million years he's been traveling the galaxy doing who knows what. Well, when the Necrons started to reawaken again, at first it said only the higher tiers of Necron society were able to retain their souls during the biotransference. Now they're saying something different. Now they're saying that when a Necron reawakens, their machine body has to go through a lot of repairs and program initiations. And if you want to reactivate their personality, that's going to take longer to reactivate everything. So the Necrons kind of skip that process and just kind of shit out your body, which is this giant robot, fucking armored death machine. And they just send you out in the fray and fight while those programs are slowly activating, which could take thousands of years. So that's kind of hard when people say like, oh, well, Necrons have personalities. Well, we're not really too sure if they do or not. We know that the leaders have personalities. We definitely know that. Like there's like this is where we get into the dynasties, where there's different Necron factions, and each one could range in the billions of like people. Now, there are different Necron factions, and I'll do my own lore videos separate on them as to what this specific faction does and what this specific faction is looking to achieve. But right now, because Michael Barney requested this video, like what Necrons are looking for in general, right now their plan was to hibernate for 60 million years, wait for the organic species to become simpler and easier to destroy, and then they would come in and just wipe out the galaxy and take it all over for the Necron Empire. And then they would somehow find a way to turn themselves back to humanoid beings again. That was the goal. They still believe it's achievable. But there's a difference though, is that now that they all have their own free will, they aren't really sure what the fuck to do. Because a lot of the stasis worlds got blown up just from time, you know, like a sun went supernova and blew it up, or a fucking like massive meteor came in and destroyed it. And at first in the old lore it said Necrons can never die. They just always regenerate, no matter what. Now in the newer lore it says a Necron can be permanently killed, but it takes a massive amount of damage. So, when a Necron machine is destroyed, or quote-unquote destroyed, when he falls to the floor, a giant green flash will appear. That's two things. Either A, he is dead, and now protocol just activated to burn the remains so that way you can't study him. Or two, he's damaged. Now the teleportation device inside him just activated, so now he can be repaired at home, and then he'll eventually be up to speed to come back and fight you again. That's what's kind of going on right now with the Necrons. So it's not impossible to destroy them, but the problem is that there's billions of them, and they're scattered all around the fucking galaxy. And also, it's even harder when a space marine has a hard time destroying these fuckers. When a space marine has a hard time destroying these guys, you know you're not going to have a good time destroying these guys. Now, what are the Eldar doing? Because after all, the Eldar recognize the Necrons. There's actually a few stasis tomb worlds that are still in stasis because of the Necron intervention. I mean, because of the Eldar intervention. Well, the Eldar keep trying to intercede and intercept every single Necron move, but the problem is that the Eldar range somewhere within the billion, maybe 100 million, and the Necrons are in the billions. and they're immortal, and they don't have to worry about the warp. In fact, they strip the warp out of any planet that they come across. So the Eldar are using weaker technology, they're outnumbered, and they're fighting an enemy who technologically outscales them. This is a very deadly fight for the Eldar, but they always try to beat them down. Now, the Eldar don't stand a chance against just the Necrons, but thankfully this is Warhammer 40K and there's more to the universe than just the fucking Eldar. That's great. And this is where we get into what the Necrons are up to. Well, some Necrons actually don't mind these human species. They don't mind at all. They actually protect them. This is the case of this one irradiated world of where Gorka Morka is residing. But some Necrons actually will protect humans because they don't have any issues with them. They view them as like too simple organics to really worry about them. Because again, us humans are just monkeys compared to what the Necrons here were and what the Eldar are. So of course the Necrons would view us in the same light that the Eldar do, which is that we're nothing more than just apes. But then, there are other Necrons who go, no. Humans are just as warp capable as the Eldar. We have to purge them. It's like, okay. And that's where you get your giant fucking massacres where the planet just becomes devoid of life and there's just blood everywhere. Okay. And then there are some Necron dynasties who believe in isolation. They believe that the Necron Empire wasn't meant to achieve the stars. Like, the Necron Empire had its chance and it failed. And it's better to be left in their tomb world undisturbed rather than go out and try to reclaim their once not so glorious empire. Okay, that's a fair shot. Other Necrons believe that they're the only Necrons left, and they are very morose because of it. Which again bothers that question, is do they really have personalities to feel emotions like this? I say that they don't, but that's because I'm more of an old lore type of person. I like the idea that the biotransference didn't perfectly transfer everything into the machines, rather than, oh, your emotions.exe folder isn't working. We can reactivate and repair, but it takes some time. No. I prefer the older lore. So, besides that though, some dynasties are very Armageddon-ish. Like, the Astral Knights dealt with this tomb world machine that was capable of just destroying planets with its fucking cannons. So that's another dynasty where they just wanted nothing but doom for everybody. They were trying to initiate basically the battle plan against the old ones, which was to strip the warp of life, so that way the warp will die. And they took it to the extreme, building that giant fucking death machine that would just destroy worlds in one shot. So, when it comes to what the Necrons are doing, it's kind of hard to say. And that's why it's really difficult for anyone to really say for certain if Necrons are bad, good, or evil. So, overall, I think that they're just a bad faction. Like, they're not evil by any stretch of the imagination, although they do have evil dynasties who do want to just purge everybody. Like, there's one dynasty that specialized in destroying stars. So much so that they actually trap the star's energies in their weapons. So instead of shooting green lightning, it shooted out an orange lightning. This dynasty is very dangerous. And this dynasty, if you know what it is, please comment it down below, because I'm going to do a video on them next time. So that way the other viewers know what dynasty this is, because I don't feel like saying their name. But these dynasties are very different. In fact, there's one dynasty that doesn't care to do anything except preserve history. That's fun. This guy will literally abduct people who were somehow related to a historical event and just imprison them for a long ass time and just keep them there. Hell, sometimes he won't even get the people of it. He'll just get like a few random humans and a few random Eldar and just put them there to symbolize the event of what happened. So, to say what the Necrons are doing is a very tricky question. But we do know for certain that they do want to rebuild a Necron empire. The goal is to essentially wake up the billions and billions of Necrons that are trapped in stasis, unite them all, and then together they would be able to strip life on such an astronomical proportion that they would be able to just overrun the galaxy. Because after all, the galaxy is in such turmoil right now that it's really ripe for conquest. You know the saying, divide and conquer? Well, right now, the galaxy is super divided and ready to be conquered. There are some issues though, like the Tyranids. The Tyranids strip planets of life just like the Necrons do, but the problem is that Tyranids are life. How would the Necrons strip life away from them? Well, that's gonna be an interesting battle because that's an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. And then you got certain things too, like the chaos pouring out every now and then, having their black crusades, and the Necrons aren't really united yet to give such a strong front to chaos. But, you know, this is all going to be interesting what GW is going to do with Necrons. I just like talking about what they are, what they do, what their specific stratagems are. But besides that, I hope you guys like this video. I know it's rather generic, and I don't usually like generic videos. I like to be as specific as possible. But if you guys like it, please comment down below, like, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. So, besides that, as always, I'll be around. Frieza 700 and I'm out.